Hi, and welcome back to That's Entertainment, the weekly entertainment show where we look at all the interesting news from last week, this week. The Guardian ran an article recently suggesting that the big screen future of Star Wars could rest with the franchise's small screen content, and that Lucasfilm and Disney Plus's The Mandalorian should make the transition to a cinema near you. The biggest genuine bona fide action movie star on the planet is a guy who was known only for the sound of his voice until very recently, and also spends most of his time in small screen ventures. I'm of course talking about Pedro Pascal, who was this week described as by The Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau as having a moment. Friend of our show, Patrick Monchowski, picked up on the article in a post on LinkedIn. Screening TV show specials in cinemas is a huge untapped potential both as a revenue and a halo for cinemas and for a subscriber loyalty to streamers. That got us thinking, just how big is that untapped potential and how hard would it be to make it happen? Showing select TV content on the big screen is not a new idea. Steven Spielberg's cinematic career began in the early 1970s with the release of his made-for-TV movie Duel in cinemas across Europe. The pilot movie and the subsequent episodes of TV show Battlestar Galactica were given a similar European theatrical release in 1978 and 79 following the success of Star Wars. And Marvel's Spider-Man made a cinematic debut in the various international markets in the early 80s when 2 episodes of the 1979 TV show were released as Spider-Man: The Dragon's Challenge. Marvel attempted to repeat the idea unsuccessfully in 2017 when the first 2 episodes of the TV series The Inhumans were given a platform to release on a 1,000-plus IMAX screens around the globe, 2 weeks before their small screen launch. It's easy to understand why the team at IMAX thought that would work, as they had great success 2 years earlier with the so-called fan screenings of 2 previously broadcast episodes of Game of Thrones. HBO went on a repeat of the idea at the end of 2017 with screenings of a single previously broadcast episode and a new 45-minute documentary created for the Blu-ray release. They also debuted some subsequent seasons at event screenings across Europe and even had a big screen, red carpet and world premiere for the final season's first episode in Belfast, where the production was based. However, while those various screenings were PR-led events designed to either raise awareness for the show's return to the TV or its release on Blu-ray and DVD, others have shown that a theatrical release can generate significant revenue. In 2022, the single most successful event cinema release in the US was The Chosen, an ongoing TV series that tells the story of Jesus Christ, that saw the first 2 episodes of the season 3 premiere in cinema, taking second place at the box office on the Friday that opened and generating a very impressive $14.6 million in ticket sales. That success led to the last 2 episodes of the series being given a similar big screening release 3 months later, which also saw cinemas in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand participating. What's interesting to note is that unlike Game of Thrones, The Chosen is a streaming TV show available on Peacock and various other platforms in the US. It is encouraging to see that the biggest multiplex cinema chains are now more than happy to show such episodic content from streaming platforms if it generates tickets and concession sales. However, such leading exhibitors have traditionally been unwilling to show feature film content from streamers, as the exclusive theatrical window for those titles was often, at best, just 1 or 2 weeks. When the studios and other mainstream distributors put a hold on their theatrical releases during and immediately following the COVID pandemic, select independent cinemas in Europe and the UK happily showed titles from various streaming platforms, including Netflix's The Trial of the Chicago 7 and Apple TV's On the Rocks and Amazon's One Night in Miami. That relationship between independent exhibitors and streaming platforms has continued thanks in part to cinemas being given beneficial rental terms, allowing them to keep a significantly higher share of the revenue from the ticket sales. It was apparent that many of these cinemas did well at this Christmas period with the Ryan Reynolds, Will Ferrell festive comedy musical Spirited from Apple. While the actual box office results were not made public, the film had an impressive theatrical run playing in cinemas from its mid-November release until just after Christmas, long after it was available to watch at home if you subscribed to Apple TV+. The likelihood of seeing future feature films from streaming platforms at your local mainstream multiplex is still uncertain, but the odds must be better following Netflix's 1-week theatrical release of Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery last November. The potential game changer brought the biggest exhibitors on board, presumably because this was the film the cinemas knew there was a big screen audience for. They were offered acceptable rental terms by Netflix, and perhaps most importantly, the release had a 30-plus day window before its streaming debut. While we haven't seen the Glass Onion experiment repeated yet, cinemas must be looking at ways to bring in incremental revenue from such a non-traditional event cinema programming at a time when audience numbers and the volume of studio titles being released are both still down on pre-pandemic levels. As Fathom Events CEO Ray Nutt succinctly put it, event cinema is not just to fill gaps between blockbusters. It exists to provide premium content to audiences who will return to theaters to have the big screen experience. What do you think of that update? I mean, we've been talking about this for years now, that it was only a matter of time before we start to see major releases. I keep on going back to the Game of Thrones experience that we had here in Copenhagen with the Copenhagen Pix Festival. So, if that kind of content can be a draw, I think cinemas are sitting on a potential gold mine there for, partnering with streaming platforms. I just think there's got to be a will and probably a new system of distribution to be thought about here too. Thanks very much. That's all for this week. Goodbye.